Hello and welcome to the Top Agent Podcast. My name is Costa and I chat with top industry leaders in real estate to discuss their successes, tips, and marketing strategies. This podcast series is brought to you by Web for Realty, the leading provider in real estate marketing tools to grow your business. If you're looking to attract leads, build relationships, and close more deals, go to webforrealty.com to learn more. All right, Matt, thank you so much for joining me on the Top Agent Podcast. Really excited for you to be here.
Thank you so much for having me. I am psyched to be a part of the Top Agent Podcast.
Amazing. So you have quite the resume. You have decades of real estate experience. You're the co-founder of Jackson Fuller Real Estate, sold hundreds of properties across San Francisco. You're the president of the San Francisco Association of Realtors in 2017. And you currently serve as a director for the California Association of Realtors. I'm sure I missed something in there. But just to kick things off, though, if you don't mind, just telling us a bit about yourself in your own words and what drives your passion for real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. So my husband and I moved to San Francisco almost 20 years ago because we wanted to form a family. And I used to work for Apple Computer. And when we were getting ready to start our family, I left and I wanted a job that would give me some flexibility so that I could be there for my kid. And I was like, what's local? What doesn't require travel? Real estate. And so I hopped in about 20 years ago because I was attracted to the flexibility and the ability to be able to be a parent to my kid. And that's really what's been the motivation that got me into real estate. And then I fell in love with the industry and the career and the job. It's a really interesting and unique job. No 2 days are the same. And, I've had some really challenging sales over the years, and I love my clients. I think San Francisco has really interesting people and really interesting homes, and that makes for a really fun job.
I love it. That's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that. Yes, I've been to San Francisco once, probably like 7 years ago. To this day, one of my favorite cities that I visited. So yeah, that's great. So interesting. You got into real estate for sort of like the lifestyle, the flexibility, have time with the family. I've heard the opposite as well. Just like the hours of real estate and like showings in the evenings and working on the weekends. Like how have you sort of grappled with that?
Right. I mean, everything's a trade-off, and real estate's not an easy job. It's not like you just show up for an hour a week and the sales roll in. There are trade-offs, I mean, in order to have flexibility so that I could be a class parent or go to plays during the day or a soccer coach after school, it meant, working on evenings and working on, some weekends, definitely Sunday. So it's trade-offs. But it's that flexibility was the most important piece to me. And, I definitely think that's kind of that independence and flexibility has been something I really value and something I really enjoy.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Can totally relate to that. Being a remote company ourselves, so it makes a lot of sense. So Matt, you've been actively involved in real estate in many different capacities and just associations and boards. How has your involvement in the real estate industry in that capacity benefited your career in real estate? And for those who might be interested in getting involved deeper in their local boards or associations.
Yeah, so pretty much any realtor in America kind of belongs to the triple layer cake of associations: your local association, your state association, and then the National Association of Realtors. And I have been fairly involved in the local and then at the state level. And I got involved at the local level, honestly, to get to know other agents, to get to know the real estate community in San Francisco, and to give them a chance to get to know me. We're in a town that often has multiple offers, and, when you get multiple offers and you're looking at these offers from people you've never met, there are agents you know, and there are agents you don't know. And being an agent that people know and having a good reputation that for someone that, brings clients that want to buy homes or want to sell homes and can manage a deal is something that's really important. And at the same time, I also wanted to make some changes. I first got involved in our MLS committee, and there were some changes that I wanted to the MLS, and with a background in technology and technology sales, it was a pretty natural fit. And from there, one thing led to the next. I was 17 president. I think association service is an incredibly great way to get to know your local real estate community. There are also often a number of incredible mentoring opportunities that are available through your association, either formally or informally. And that was also a really important value to me. But overall, like the association experience for me was kind of the 50,000 foot level of, the big picture of real estate and the real estate industry. How do we support brokers? How do we share listings? How is data managed? How do we cooperate fairly? How do we compete? You have all of these kind of new business models on the scene, from iBuyer to limited service. There are all of these really interesting things happening, and it's an opportunity to influence the industry at a very high level, but it's not necessarily something that pays immediate day-to-day dividends in terms of increasing your pipeline or bringing you business. It's more of a medium to long-term kind of strategic investment of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally can see that. And, as you mentioned, I can see just networking as a massive benefit for sure. Just getting a deeper understanding of real estate in your local community. So, let's start there. One of the most common questions I get from realtors and my clients is about generating leads and just growing your sphere of influence and your contacts. So there's obviously many ways to go about that. How do you look at lead generating to grow your business? Like, what seems to be your strategy that works well for you?
Right. From my point of view, I basically look at lead generation in two buckets. One is what I call the organic bucket, and the other is what I call the paid bucket. So the paid bucket is anything I advertise for, right? Like, Google display ads, a Yelp promo, Zillow leads, whatever it might be. But I am paying someone money to get a lead from them. Those leads, to be completely honest, have never worked out for me.
Really?
They seem to be kind of the least personal fit. They tend to view realtors as the most commodified and least valuable part of the transaction. And it's just not been a good match for my style. On the other side, we have what I call the organic leads. And those are obviously leads that come from my sphere. Those are referrals from past clients, but it's also online business that comes to me naturally. JacksonFuller.com ranks fairly well for neighborhoods and San Francisco condo buildings. And interestingly enough, if I get an organic lead, somebody who came from me organically based on my ranking on Google search results, that relationship tends to work out. If I get an online lead that I paid for, it was a Google display ad and they clicked on the ad results as opposed to the organic results, again, those relationships turn out to not work out so well for me. So organic traffic, whether it's organic from my website, organic from my sphere, organic from past clients, has by far been the best source of business for me.
Interesting. Okay, so that's I love that. So you've obviously tried and dabbled with the paid route, Google, Yelp, Zillow, like you mentioned. Are you not doing any paid right now?
No, we're really not. I mean, we work with an SEO strategist, so the investment, again, is kind of medium long-term to work on improving our organic versus, paid short-term just to get some names and contacts in the database.
Okay, nice. So would you say, what percentage of like new leads would you say come in from like your website organically in comparison to like referrals and things like that?
Yep. In any given year, the website will generate between 25 and 50% of my business.
Wow. Okay. Nice.
It's been a really good source for me. We started blogging in 2006 because we're like, hey, we could blog, why not? And the website's been through many, many iterations. We've tried a lot of things, and at this point, I feel fairly comfortable with what we've got, and able to represent myself and my expertise online and turn that into relationships.
That's huge. That's incredible. I'm sure a lot of people listening are going to want me to sort of dive into that, because that's another common question. You know, what can we do with our website and to generate more traffic and leads? So I know you mentioned you have an SEO company you work with who helps with that. Let's start from the beginning. Like this was clearly like a strategy to work on the organic route with your website and building content. How did you start off with that? Did you start off with just like blogging about things in the community, or how did that look?
Yeah, so we started back in 2006, just blogging about anything real estate related, stuff happening in the community, what we thought was interesting, just putting the stuff on the net and seeing what worked, what people were interested in. And over time that evolved into a couple websites that were dedicated, in addition to Jackson Fuller, that was always kind of neighborhood centric. We had some that were building centric, and kind of learned how to rank well for SEO and work with those clients. And then we rolled that all back into jacksonfuller.com when we did a major overhaul of the website in 2018. And one of the reasons I started my own brokerage was so that I could build my own infrastructure. And when we started the brokerage, we licensed a property base and Salesforce. And they're 10,000-pound gorillas that I do not recommend lightly. But because they are 10,000-pound gorillas, they can talk to everything and anything. And although it's taken at this point much, much longer than I thought, at this point, I have a backend CRM that 100% powers my website, that is completely tied to the admin side of my business for managing all of my past transactions, source of business, so on and so forth. So it's been a very long haul, but at this point, it's all integrated and everything talks to everything. And I don't have to re-enter things here or there. And, people don't get lost in the cracks. And the idea is in real estate, my experience is you can scale your business in two ways as a broker. You can use technology to make your best agents more productive so that your smartest people are able to do more business, or you can fill up a bunch of desks with get 2 or 3 transactions out of them before they move on, give up, whatever it might be. My preference, my experience is that I want to build and scale my business on technology, because I want to use technology to leverage my knowledge, my expertise, and share that with people, clients, the community, because that gives me the most control over the quality of that information and the quality of that relationship.
Yeah, and it sort of aligns to what you said at the very beginning with your true goal getting into business was just to have the flexibility and the freedom and the lifestyle to enjoy with your family. And I think technology is a way to make your business more efficient and make it more of a process. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I completely agree. There's no secret in technology, right? I mean, CRMs are CRMs. They all do slightly different things, but the basic idea is the basic idea. And at some point, technology just becomes a commodity, right? Any brokerage can have it. Any brokerage can build something. It's a commodity idea. So while everyone loves to scream and talk about how, technology is transforming real estate and the industry, yes, that is true. And yes, it's a commodity, right? I mean, if you're focusing your business value proposition around something that everyone else has and everyone else can buy, what's your real value proposition, right? My value is what I know about San Francisco. And so that's what I really showcase as my proposition, and the technology should just kind of blend into the background to make it possible.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Thanks for sharing all that. But if anyone listening, I'll definitely encourage anyone to go on your website, jacksonfuller.com. And I love how you break down by neighborhood, by building. I can see that driving a lot of great SEO. You mentioned blogging at the beginning. Do you still blog new content regularly on the website?
I am so bad about blogging new content. For a while, we were working with some ghostwriters that I really liked, and then those relationships ended. It's really tough to find people that I enjoy working with on the writing side. It's tough to find the time myself to do it. But the real big hit is over the years, we've had enough of our articles copied and pasted and used as content on other people's website. And that's really frustrating. So what I did do a couple of years ago was we launched a podcast. And I am behind on updating my podcast episodes. I've got a couple in production, but haven't posted for a little while here. This work in a COVID world is crazy. But we went with the podcast. You can steal my ideas from the podcast, but then you either have to take the time to write them down or make your own podcast. So it makes it a whole lot harder to kind of claim my content as yours. So, we do the kind of SEO, online content marketing you would expect, like 3 things to do in this neighborhood and, all of those pieces. But in terms of talking about things that I know and think are important for San Francisco buyers and sellers to know, I've tried to move all of that to the podcast because I think it does a much better job of combining my knowledge with who I am and my character personality and making it harder for other people to copy that.
Very, very smart. I like the strategy, but also I guess good with your blog. If people are copying it, I'm sure it's a lot of good, what's called like evergreen content. So posts that are still relevant. You could have wrote them maybe 5 years ago, but maybe still relevant today. I think that's another important factor when thinking about blogging.
Yeah, I think blogging really is. We often sit down. Evergreen content is so important because, to your point, we sit down and we think, what can I say today? What will people read today? And then we forget, what you posted that day lives forever. And if you can come up with something that's relevant for more than a day, you've done a better job of creating content.
For sure. One last question in regards to SEO. You mentioned with the SEO company, do you still hire an SEO company to do work on the website?
Yeah, absolutely. When we relaunched the website in 2018, we worked with a Salesforce developer, a web developer, the design team, and the SEO team. And SEO is ongoing, every month. And there was a time and a place where SEO was kind of a do-it-yourself thing. You could figure out how to rank for a keyword. And San Francisco real estate, as we all know, is an incredibly expensive and competitive market. So it's not something that I think at this point, you serve yourself well by trying to just rank by yourself. The Google algorithm has changed enough, and there's so many more pieces to it, and so many more people that want a piece of that pie. I think that in my market, working with someone in SEO is really important.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, that's perfect. Thanks so much for breaking that down. So we spoke about generating leads. You're doing what seems to be a fantastic job just generating organic leads through your website, which again, I encourage anyone to check out jacksonfuller.com. But that's sort of the first step. So now when leads come in to your website, what's your process after that? Obviously, you don't want them to just sit there. Do you have any email marketing you do? Do you call them? How does that flow look like?
Yeah, I want to reach out and connect with them, preferably over the phone or via text. Email is the most kind of commodified, most likely to end up in the not going to get read folder. People pay more attention to their texts and are almost often surprised when you pick up the phone and give them a call. And I take to be honest with you, I take a very laid back approach to it. My philosophy and my feeling on this is that I treat people the way I want to be treated, and I hate high pressure salespeople who try to close me on the first conversation. And my experience of this is also that real estate is a really long sales cycle. When I worked at Apple and that technology space. I worked with enterprise customers that also had, a very long, complex sales cycle. And I think that's one of the frustrations that online buyers and sellers have is they come to websites, they start interacting with realtors, and they're thinking of selling or buying, 12 to 24 months from now, but they're being treated with an expectation that they're going to buy now.
Yeah.
So my philosophy and my approach is to give them the information they want, to understand what they're looking for and what that time frame might be. And if that time frame is sooner rather than later, then hey, that's wonderful. But if it's a long way out, I honor that, and try and figure out, what kind of information I can provide them on a regular basis between now and then that is of value. Because my experience watching online leads is that if I take that approach, I usually have some interaction with them at the beginning for, a couple weeks, maybe a month, off the radar for a while. But look back somewhere between like 6 to 12 months and start interacting with me again. So I know people kind of like look at the online pipeline and it's like always be closing, build that funnel, shove them through now. And that is a sales style. And there are clients who like to be treated like that. I think that people that pay for leads, that's kind of more their category and time frame. But that's not my style, right? I don't like to be treated like that. So this is often the biggest purchase or sale people are going to make in their lives. I want them to know what they're doing. I want to take the time to build trust with them. And, I'm looking at the relationship over the long term.
I love that. I don't think there's a right or wrong approach to nurturing leads. I think the law of attraction is a real thing, and you want to work with people who are like-minded, and you get along with. So, yeah, I think that approach makes a lot of sense.
I think 100%. I mean, I know folks in the city that have, built their businesses off of paying for those online leads. And, that's a style they like. It works for them. But, ultimately, it kind of comes down to know who you are and know who you want to work with, and keep that in your mind, because absolutely, law of attraction.
Totally, for sure. So back to like nurturing leads. So I guess it doesn't sound like you have these leads like in like an automated email sequence or like monthly reports or things like that. Do you do any of that?
Yeah, we have all of that, right?
Okay.
We have kind of like the, long-term drip. We have the newsletter. We have kind of neighborhood or property updates. And I'm not working with a massive volume of buyers or sellers at any given moment. So it's not like I've got to keep track of 300 leads, right? They're not. It's a smaller market than that with fewer transactions and fewer people. So I think it's more important. I think it's absolutely important to keep in touch with them during that time frame and to automate that as much as possible. But I also think that anything I send them has to be of value and sincere, because we all know when we're getting weak copy and paste, lame marketing. And nobody likes that, right? It's almost worse than getting nothing, because it's like, oh, I'm just going to, give you a canned response. That's how important you are to me.
Yeah, I get it.
And, it's a very personal business in my experience. Yes, the product that we are transacting is a house, but the people that are doing it are all people, and it's not like a standard thing. You don't go to a department store and watch other people buy houses. It's a very unique process. It varies by state, local tradition, and it's really important, that there's trust in a relationship, in my experience.
Absolutely. And you said something that I sort of laughed, but I find, obviously in my business, we help real estate agents. I'm in a few email drips, let's just say, from a lot of clients. And I find April or first of the month, I get the exact same email from like so many different clients. And like you said, it's very cookie cutter and canned, and probably not the best way to go about it.
Yeah, and at this point, Jackson Fuller Real Estate is on Instagram and we're on Twitter. We do have a Facebook page, but I'm no longer personally on Facebook. But when I was on Facebook before I closed my account, kind of very similar to that is I would see all of these agents who had automated posting to their Facebook feeds, and I'd see the same article posted by like 15 different agents.
Yeah.
And San Francisco's a town of roughly a million people. It's a relatively small town. So, yes, I probably knew more realtors than most folks, but most folks in the city know more than one agent. And, if they're getting canned content in their newsfeed, they know it.
Yeah, totally. For sure. Pretty easy to look through that. So, I love it. It seems like you like to go with that personal approach, which is great. I probably should have asked earlier, but how big is your team?
So there are two agents at Jackson Fuller, myself and my business partner. And we're actually both so that we're working on salary so that it supports kind of that idea that we're not here to make a quick sale, that we're very invested in the long term. Then we have a support team that handles all of our transaction administration, and then a great team of contractors and vendors we work with in terms of marketing, photos, property prep, staging. But the core team is Britton and myself with 3 assistants.
Okay, amazing. I always ask, if you don't want to answer, maybe give a range if you're comfortable, but do you share how many approximately transactions you would do in a given year?
Yeah, and all of the agents that are listening out there are going to laugh at me because its average is about 15.
Okay, no, that's great.
So, and I know in plenty of markets, if you were doing 15 transactions, you would be struggling to put dinner on your table. But because of the nature of San Francisco real estate and our price point, that supports a business.
Yeah, you can have a pretty good lifestyle with that in San Francisco, I'd imagine. Okay, so that's great. So you touched on it little while ago, but so next part, so we talked about sort of lead generating, nurturing the leads. I think that's like half the story. At the end of the day, you do have to provide a service and execute on, whether you're working with buyers or sellers, and just providing them the actual value of the service. So in a competitive industry like real estate, how do you differentiate yourself in that service and ensuring just your value proposition really stands out and would encourage someone to refer you after you're done?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a cliche, and I'm sure someone else has said it before, but I honestly think the best thing I can do to advertise my business is an excellent job of any transaction I'm currently working on. Because that's going to generate kind of more word of mouth, more buzz, more people talking about me, leaving a positive review on my website, Zillow, wherever that may be. So I think that's really important.
For sure. Are there any specific, so when you have, let's say, a listing, you're working with a seller, is there anything specific you would do with that listing to help it stand out with probably like the hundreds of other listings out there?
Yeah, and so I think that most educated sellers in San Francisco, realize that there's, let's call it an A, a B, and a C group. There's an A tier of agents in this town that are going to do a phenomenal job of marketing your property. I would like to think that I'm amongst that A group. And the A group all, pretty much requires similar things, right? We're going to professionally photograph your home. We're really going to recommend you stage it and not live in it. We're going to recommend some property prep. We're going to make some recommendations about how you handle property disclosures and get ready. And it's honestly fairly similar to your point. And again, what differentiates me isn't technology, but it's that I can do what I do and share what I share and know what I know and be the person who shows up and has that conversation with the seller versus sending an assistant or, a minion or a team member or whatever it might be, because I think that the relationship is what distinguishes, me, and the willingness to be there, to guide them through that transaction, to make sure they have access to me, that it's not just this idea that I'm the guy who goes out and gets the listing signed and then they never hear from again, but that really we are there with them from, the moment they start talking to us until the day it closes. And I can do that because instead of trying to manage agents with various levels of experience, I have a technology stack where I've built this, knowledge of business processes into, and that supports me.
Yeah, love it. That's amazing. Great answer there. I wanted to ask this earlier, but I missed it. So in regards to sort of like marketing, you talked a lot about online, but do you do any, and it's sort of, in terms of timing, we're recording this mid-August, but are there any offline marketing strategies like events or things like that? And on a COVID world, not too many people are probably thinking about events, but.
And it kind of comes to getting the distinction between like paid traffic and organic investments. So we definitely do a lot to keep in touch with our past clients and our sphere. Back in the day when you could do events, we loved to do past client parties. We had some boat tours in the bay, some picnics, a lot of really fun chances to interact with clients and catch up with them, see their families over the years. That's not happening right now. So we try and do a couple of things. One, which is, keep in touch with them about what's happening in the market so they know the value of their property. Two, let them know we're always available. So we're kind of keeping in, just general touch. Then we've got a property specific drip. And then we do, hard mailings to them. At the beginning of the year, we sent everyone luggage tags, that were embossed with the Jackson Fuller logo and info, because many of our clients travel. At least they used to. So since luggage tags turned out to not be the best mailer at the beginning of the year, we actually just sent out masks to all of our past clients in Sphere and have gotten a really good reaction from that. So again, I always come back to the what's in it for me philosophy, and what can I offer my clients? What can I give them? What can I do? What could I send them that is truly of value to them and about their lives and where they're at, and not about me.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. Another question, I was switching gears a little bit. You touched on it as well a bit, but how do you see technology changing real estate, if at all, in the way you do business and call it the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, so it's no secret that our industry has a quality control problem, right? You can hear anyone gripe about, a bad experience with an inexperienced agent, who overlooked or didn't do something, easy, obvious, and it led to a lot of problems. I think that what technology portends for our industry has been noticed by other people, but I think that it means that a lot fewer people will be doing a lot more transactions because technology will be the way that the industry decides to scale and support itself versus, minimally educated, minimally controllable, minimally influenced independent contractors. So, I think that is kind of the future of the industry, is that we will have fewer people who are doing more deals.
Interesting. Do you think that will take away from the personable approach to real estate and just really connecting with your clients on a personal level?
No, I actually think that, that personal relationship is fundamental to real estate. And if technology couldn't support that relationship, it wouldn't be of value to our business. So to the extent that technology does things like, DocuSign and gets my client's signature while everyone's still in their pajamas, that's a value, but my client still wants to have a conversation with me to understand what they're signing, right? So if I can spend my time, explaining what they're signing to them versus looking for a fax machine or driving something across town or, any of these things we used to do to literally physically transport, paper. That's a value add because it lets me spend more of my time interacting with my clients and less of my time doing administrivia.
Yeah, so makes a lot of sense.
I actually think, and agents that do the most deals, I'm not saying that you've got to be doing like 500 deals or some crazy number, but there's, a number that shows that like, this is your living, this is consistently what you do, you're in tune with the market, you're touring properties, prices, values, your inventory, versus someone who just does it occasionally. Right? Like maybe they sell a house a year for a friend or 2 or 3 or, whatever it might be. And I think people who take the career seriously and produce at a consistent volume that supports it as a full, know more about the business, they know more about the local market. And if you give a good technology stack, they're able to interact with just as many people as, several agents kind of running cluelessly about.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense for sure. I have to ask, recently I've been speaking to a lot of agents from all over the country, and I'm sort of hearing very similar consensus on how like hot their real estate markets are. Are you seeing the same in San Francisco? Or
so I actually did a guest editorial for, I think it was Realty Times earlier this year, talking about segmented markets. And San Francisco right now is definitely a segmented market where we have different property types doing different things. For example, in our condo market right now, last month, there were 0 condo sales in buildings that had more than 300 homes in them.
0 sales last month from condos?
Yeah, so like we have some big developments here, like Infinity, One Rincon, the Beacon, and all of these really large condo projects, have fairly high dues because they're full amenity buildings, and all of those shared amenities at the moment are off limits. So the value proposition to a buyer is a bit of a challenge, but let's remember this is kind of a short-term thing that's happening. In addition, because of the way San Francisco has built and builds and approves, the only product type that has been generally built for the last 10 to 15 years are condominiums in several particular neighborhoods of San Francisco. So you have a lot of supply in the condo market. Then if we contrast that with the single family market, there are no more single family homes being built in San Francisco, which tends to make them more valuable as time goes on. And that market is staying fairly strong. I placed offers on several houses within the last week that had multiple offers, in the $2+ million range.
Interesting. Yeah, that's wow. I'd never guessed 0 sales in condos from units you said of more than 300.
Yeah, I want to say, there were condo sales that closed last month. From what I looked at, the largest development that a condo closed in was a 300-unit development called the Palms here in the South Beach, South of Market area.
Yeah. Interesting. Another sort of trend, speaking about like today's times, which again will change and stuff, but so a lot of realtors I've spoken to have talked about how a lot of people are leaving cities. Like, are you noticing any of that in San Francisco?
Our rents have definitely taken a dive, which would indicate, the rental market is generally faster to respond to changes than the sales market. So, which would definitely indicate, renters are leaving, not renewing. There's definitely been downward pressure there. How it plays out overall, to be honest with you, a lot of the folks I've been working with over the last couple of months have been move-up buyers who would like to, for example, go from a condo to a single-family house and feel like now is a good opportunity to do that. I think there's been this big hype around working from home and remote work and how that will change the world. And I also think that as we continue to do remote work, we start to come up against some of its limitations. And, last year was, everyone was like, cities are the future. San Francisco, Seattle, New York. 2020 has been, cities are the past. New York, Seattle, San Francisco, all old news. And I think the truth is kind of somewhere in the middle. I do think that, some people will choose to leave the city and work elsewhere and establish careers elsewhere. But I also think that, when we get back to whatever the new normal is, cities will continue to be valuable because they are concentrations of investment opportunity, of networking opportunity, and kind of the serendipity that can only happen in real life when you randomly run into someone or any of the chance occurrences that have impacted anyone's life over the years. So, I think some people are going to leave, but I also don't think it's going to be quite the exodus that love to write about San Francisco, right? Whether or not what they're writing is true is a whole different story, but everyone has an idea about what San Francisco is and wants to write about it.
Yeah, totally. That is very well stated. Tough to sort of argue against that, but it makes a lot of sense. Speaking of remote work, you might hear 2 crying babies in the background. I think that might be the cue. I do end off each chat with what I call the top 3, some heavy hitting questions. You ready?
I am ready. But first, congratulations on your 2 children. My child just turned 16. They started their junior year of high school. I'm like, where did the years go?
Oh, wow.
So I hope your years fly by in a positive way and that you make lots of wonderful memories.
That's exciting. Yeah, I have a 2, almost 2.5-year-old and a 3-month-old. So
wow, Anyone sleeping at your house?
Not really, but you get used to it very quickly.
Right, exactly. I remember that. So
amazing.
All right, top 3. The top 3 big questions here.
Here we go. Number 1, your favorite real estate or business book?
My favorite real estate or business book. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's not specifically real estate, but it's learning what's important and learning what's urgent, and kind of keeping the wheel going. So that would be my answer.
That's a key one for any business person or any person really. That's any
person really. Yeah. Someone made me read it in college, and I thank them for that.
For sure, I agree. Number 2, and this one's sort of weird to ask now because vacations are almost a foresight, but number 2, your favorite vacation spot?
Spain, Valencia, Spain.
Okay.
My husband works for Adobe Systems, and they offer their employees a sabbatical every 5 years. And we spent 6 weeks in Valencia, Spain, in 2018, and it was just a wonderful trip. We had some smaller trips to great. I fell in love with Spain, and it was the Valencia is the 3rd largest city, so it's a nice size, but it's not quite as overwhelming as say Barcelona or Madrid, and it was wonderful.
Nice. That sounds pretty sweet. And lastly, if you can go back in time, what do you wish your 20-year-old self knew when you were just starting out in business?
Just one thing. Be patient and be kind. And that extends in 2 directions. Being patient and kind with other people, but also being patient and kind with myself. I expect a lot of myself, and I can be really hard on myself when I feel like I'm not delivering. And I would say of all of, the habits I've built over the years, that's one of the least helpful, habits that I really wish, someone had gone back and told me, keep it positive and, be kind to yourself. Always.
Great advice. Yeah, that's so important. That's a perfect way to end this, I think. Matt, thank you so much. I had a really fun time. Pleasure speaking with you. I think a lot of people listening to this are going to get so much value. So thank you so much. I really do appreciate the time.
Well, awesome. Well, thanks for reaching out, and this has been a delight, and I've really enjoyed it, and can't wait to share the podcast with everyone.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Matt. We should do it again sometime.
Definitely.
All right. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to the Top Agent Podcast by Web for Realty. By the way, we're providing exclusive promos to our listeners. Visit webforrealty.com/topagent and get your first month on us. That's webforrealty.com/topagent to get your first month of service completely free. Until next time, over and out. Peace.